Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee. It is October 9th, 2019. It's 3:01 right now. Myself, Joe McCulca is present, JT Thomas, Janice Lancaster, Virginia is out, Thomas Roller is out, Warren Davies is here, and Angela Sullivan is here. We have 5 members, and that's a quorum, and we're good to go. Let's see, we don't have Chris or Jane. Who is Jane Van Hengen? Hey, who is that? See that name there? Inframark. Okay, that might be the person who's going to be doing the minutes. That's my guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's from Inframark, which is, I think, what they call themselves now.
They had a change, he had a change in it, I think.
What's that?
No, that's the one. Yeah, they added the SBAC recommendation on parking.
Okay, yeah, that was slipped in there. So, we're gonna start with the minutes, and this is gonna be a little bit more involved in the typical portion of what we do with the minutes. The minutes, and I'm sorry, but the minutes were a mess the last time. They were all it was terrible, the language, the,
Descriptions?
no, it was hard to read and made no sense. So, what we have done, and this is for the August 7th minutes, I guess.
September 11th.
September 11th, why do I have, oh, that's an old one I have there. I'm sorry, yeah, September 11th. Okay, you're gonna have 2 copies of these minutes. The one that was the original that was sent out to all of you, which you probably have seen.
It says old up top here, so you can see the
Yep.
difference.
And then the new version, which has been updated.
Who corrected the updated version?
Myself and Margaret went over it, just to review, and I needed Margaret to help me with memory of some old things that were referred to. And some dates and years and whatnot, and she was nice enough to do that. In any case, I'm missing a copy of the old right now.
You want mine?
See?
There's an old right here, is that just says,
You want mine?
No, I have it.
I wasn't here, so I won't even be able to talk about it.
That's true. There actually were a couple of things, at least one place where JT was quoted, and we know that wasn't correct. The pages are numbered. This is August 7th. We're looking for September 11th.
Here, here's a new one for September 11th.
Okay, hang on.
There's the old and new.
Okay. Okay, we're good. We're good. If we look through it, the first few pages are not that bad. There was some language, and we did add into it on number 5, let's say, for example. We consider this item done because this concerns a crossway sealant contract review. We actually reviewed that last month and said that it was acceptable. It's done, okay?
Right.
Power washing contract, there was some language in there that was not clear. Besides spelling my name wrong, which is still was spelled wrong over here. For $2,500, Mr. McCulca will recommend doing it once. Okay, I'm bringing that up right now because I did recommend doing it once, but after thinking about it, we never, even though we had approved the previous contract to do it twice for $2,100, we need to approve doing it once for $2,500. So at this point in time, I'd like to take a motion just to approve that and make it formal, if
Can I
that's
ask a
okay.
question before you do that?
Mhm.
Is this going around where you wanted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the final contract here has a language in it that goes down Bluestone, that goes around the corners up to property lines.
Okay.
I don't think that's proper to do that.
Because we're in the middle of reviewing minutes? Okay,
Because we have it on the agenda where we can amend it.
I agree, all right, I'll accept that. I just didn't wanna forget to do it, that's all, so help me remember.
Yeah.
Let's see. There were some issues under no parking liability. It would say at prior board meetings, it's actually prior district board meetings, because I don't want to confuse that, which board it is. That was changed. There was something about the potential liability of towing the car out of here. We basically changed that. Because what Tony had asked us was that if we are aware of an issue from towing the car, we must report it. We can't keep it to ourselves. It means if a car is damaged or something happens, we have to let Gateway Services know. And that's, I'm not saying that's part of an agreement, but that's part of what he was asking for, and I had said it, and it wasn't quite quoted correctly. There was a line here that I do not understand. We made the BOS, the Board of Supervisors, aware of having the cars there. I don't know what that's about. I don't remember saying that. I don't know what it's about. We removed that line. It's not there anymore. We might have added a little bit of language to the liability of towing a car out of Stoneybrook is small versus the liability of a child getting hit and seriously injured. The parent's attorney would sue everybody, and we just said the attorney in the original form. That's what they quoted. Maybe it's what we said, but we're really referring to the parent's attorney. Now it says, Mr. Davies stated Gateway passed a resolution. I'm not sure if you're the one that even said that, were you? Okay. Okay. Once again, the board on the left, or the old, we changed it to district board. Wanted to amend our contract with Gateway, include making Stoneybrook the HOA an agent for the board. And it changed a little bit of the language that had to do with how the responsibilities for towing would be on the HOA more than on Gateway Services, but that's really just opinion. Mr. McCulkin noted several years ago, 2009, the new president of Stoneybrook, Margaret, wanted guidance. She wanted no parking. That's not entirely correct. And she was looking for guidance. But I will say this, it was Margaret acting on behalf of the board. The board had discussed it at the time because we were having complaints come in about parking, and there wasn't a formal vote as I recall, because as I recall, there was no approval of anything. So Margaret had said that she would go ahead and look into what Gateway's opinion was on parking in our community. And the individual she spoke to was Bill Knight. I don't know if we want to change this. I know I don't remember verbatim what was said, but she was a new president at the time, and
Well, she didn't make that at the meeting, she made that somewhere else. You were.
oh no, that was a
2009.
communication where it was either 2009 or 2010, and I wasn't
2009.
sure
2009.
when it was done. So I left that in there because I wasn't sure, and that is what I said. Wanted guidance from the district about no parking at nighttime initially, but she was concerned about the parking on one side of the street at a time and what their position is. Some of our problem was, and still is, children go to school while it's still dark. At 6:45 this morning, it was pitch black. And yet, you know, the kids are going to school at 6 o'clock in the morning somewhere. So, lo and behold, Tetra Tech comes back, which I don't even necessarily said here there was almost no parking in Stoneybrook.
Was that from the study they did, or was that something else they did?
You know what? I don't know if that's what I said. I don't remember for sure. But Tetra Tech said there was no legal parking, but
Because the
almost no, and I'm not even sure I said
According to
that.
their study, there was no legal parking because the roadway was only 20 foot.
That's correct. That was my memory too. Well, the only thing I can think of is if we qualified at all, and maybe in my mind I qualified it, it had to do with the fact that there is parking, not on the roads, but at our parking lot down by the clubhouse. That's about the only exception I can think of.
It is.
And so possibly that's why that came out.
And who's reviewed that Tetra Tech?
Oh, that's been,
Not
Was
given that
that
stack of
given
stuff.
to the HOA board
No.
years ago?
No,
Who was it given
that
to?
study went to the district manager at the time.
yeah,
Bill
and the
Knight.
board of supervisors.
He made the decision that they needed signs. There's no documentation that shows that it ever went to the board. At some point, I'm sure it did, because there was some discussion around over the years. But he went out, which is the same way the county does it. The county don't go to the county commissioners to get to put up stop signs.
Yeah.
They do the study, it goes to for them, it's the county engineer, traffic engineer. He makes the decision, he tells what signs, how they're gonna be posted.
That was my
That's it.
question. I just wanted to
Yeah.
know if
It went to
the
Bill
HOA board
Knight.
was ever presented
Yeah.
that information.
Well,
And what
I will
year
say
was
Not
it?
this.
formally, I would
not
say.
formally, I will say this, that, and this is my recollection, because I know I have a copy of most of this. Margaret at the time was president, I was vice president. And I believe the two of us did receive, and I received it, not maybe for being vice president, but for being here. I might have received a copy. It's a little fuzzy. But we have a copy of this study. I
Yeah,
know
it's
I
in
have
that
some,
stack.
and it is substantial, goes into many details about the roads, cutaways, distances.
This is what we received today.
Yeah, this
That's
big
what you
stack
received
stuff.
today.
Okay.
That's,
Okay, and it's more than we wanna go over, but it's something to
Yeah.
review for your own information and hang on to. If for no other reason, just if there are questions, or somebody asks you a question, why it was done, because let me state for the record, and this I know factually because I was involved, the HOA board never put the signs in. There were no rules or against the law, the HOA board did not do it. It was done by Gateway Services, and it was done at the insistence of Bill Knight as a result of this study that you now have in front of you.
The study that I now have in front of me, how
Yeah,
can
and
the
that's
community access it? Is it on our Stoneybrook,
no, it's public record request.
public records
Public
to go
record, yeah.
through
And
Gateway Services or just public
also in that
records?
stack, you will find a invoice for signs for about $6,500, and that they were gonna be installed at all strictly is Gateway. There's nothing, the HOA has nothing to do with it.
In fact,
Got it.
and this is and Margaret and I talked about this also, and it is my opinion that we did pay for them, but not through the HOA, but through the O4 fund.
Yeah, well,
And that's
Still
where it
Gateway
was
money.
built. No,
Yes, it is.
yes, it is,
Yes, it
but
is.
it's dedicated to Stoneybrook assets.
Stoneybrook money, but they use it to spend, they spend our money, they spend the money for us.
But
We're
one of the
safe.
purposes of this committee is to oversee that and control how that money is spent. We don't make final approvals, we make recommendations, but they should follow it.
And I
If
wasn't
they
here in
don't, they-
2009, so I have a lot of questions.
Go through that
I'm
stuff.
going
I
to
think-
read those.
Well, a lot of it you'll pitch, but a bunch of the pages there gives a pretty good explanation. And
But
that
I
was
would
put together
want
by the attorney.
To reiterate one more time for the record, that the board, HOA board, had nothing to do with the installation of those signs. They did not do it, they didn't pay for it. We did, as residents, pay for it through our taxes with the HOA.
That's where it gets confusing for me.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
don't
it's
think we
picking
should be
up.
saying that.
Yeah. Nevertheless, because there are stories going on out there that, other than the reality of what happened. All right, so with that said, let me just finish up these minutes real quick. Let's see. The street signs, and I have some notes for myself to make it easier. Bear with me. A lot of paper here. And the page, and actually the lines don't match up on the pages for whatever reason, the way printed out. Several years ago.
Our internet's back up in case.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone want to make a change in the minutes here as far as the new president of Stoneybrook wanted guidance? It actually was the board that wanted the guidance, and she offered to go ahead and contact.
It's fine.
All right. Now, I'm gonna say the new president of Stoneybrook, Margaret, acting at request
On behalf of,
this is a little bit more direct here, at request of community. How's that? Because that is what happened, wanted guidance on parking. At nighttime. Now, that's what I knew, and, but Margaret did say that part of that had to do with, the parking on both sides of the street. She was concerned about that and asked also for guidance on that. So I'll just
That would
put
only
that
be
in.
by your memory, cause that was in 2009, 2010.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2009 is when they started.
10 years ago.
I know, I'm like,
so I apologize if I might have skipped that point when I said it, but. All right, so any case, page 4, what do we got? Page 4, we made a couple of changes. Okay, Tetra Tech on page 4 said there was almost no parking in Stoneybrook. It's not actually what they said, but Tetra Tech did provide documents showing road design would not allow parking in Stoneybrook.
I don't think they showed a design, I think they just had a 2-page report.
I didn't say design.
We just,
Oh, okay.
I don't think so, because that report was not really well done.
If you look in here, it
I've
doesn't.
got.
Okay, I won't go looking for it. It actually does mention road design.
Yes.
And the
yes.
limitations of the 20-foot and the 2-foot,
Right.
curb cuts.
so is this supposed to say no parking in the streets where it says, because it just says no parking?
Essentially, that was their conclusion, and that's how Bill Knight interpreted it, yeah.
No parking. Roadways were not built for parking, street parking.
Yeah.
Then that should say that, it should
But-
say roadways were not made.
Well, that's not what I said the other day, though, that's the problem.
Okay,
So I may have said virtually no parking only because of the fact there is parking at the community center. I've always said that there is no parking in the community for random public. Because technically you need to be a member to go to the club, to our clubhouse, so to speak, and park there and participate in it, but that's another subject. But their conclusion with their supporting documents say that there was no parking on the Stoneybrook streets.
so who said the next line?
Let's
This is
see.
where the liability truly exists.
That is this is an opinion of mine, okay? That the liability exists here, because if nothing is done, the district could be vulnerable for not taking action if an unfortunate incident occurs. That was my language, that's what I said.
Okay.
And that is my opinion, not only being a lawyer, but having an experience in business and such matters, in that, once you know about something, you gotta correct it. You have some obligation, legal obligation to correct it. And they've been notified that there is a vulnerability here. And to do nothing, actually, could be argued, could relieve the HOA of some of that responsibility. God forbid something should happen. But in any case, that's my opinion. Mr. McCulkin noted we must do something, however, we should delay. And the purpose for that is they're asking for us to do things. Now, one of them is, I have a map sitting out here on the table. That is a map of our community. We're going to, and I brought that out because we just got that in that size. And we're going to mark that up to show, even with allowing parking, just how few parking spots there actually are that meet the criteria by the Lee County and state statutes, from setbacks from corners, driveways, mailboxes, and all those sorts of
I
things.
thought someone already did that.
No one's actually done it. Paul went
Paul.
around and reviewed it, but he didn't actually create a
Okay,
document to
right.
present
Right.
to the board of supervisors. And I don't remember the exact number he came up with, but I believe a quick glance by Margaret, she came up with about 15 or 16.
Right, I recall.
And,
That was back when he was president?
what's that? No, this was after he was president. This is during this discussion. In fact, I think he did that relatively recently.
Years ago.
Now, keep in mind, the setbacks from the mailboxes are up to 6 o'clock. So the setbacks from the mailboxes are up to 6 o'clock. It's not 24 hours a day.
There's no restriction in this law on that.
Yeah, it is, it's written in there.
Where?
It's there. The law only applies up to 6 o'clock.
For parking in front of a mailbox?
Yeah,
Florida statute?
yeah. It's there. It's like the tomato sauce, it's in there.
Nope, not in there.
It is, well, you didn't find where it is,
No,
but it is
I've
in
been-
there.
I've been reading these from all over the country, and it's not part of the memorandum or the National Committee on Uniform Traffic Laws.
No. I'm not gonna look for it right now, but I'm going to tell you I have read it. And
Okay.
Margaret has read it too. We both agreed on having seen it. But in any case, it isn't a 24-hour thing. That applies up until when mail is delivered.
And that's a regulation by who?
It goes with the regulation for the setbacks in the mailboxes. It's the restriction on the limitation.
Florida statute 316, section 1965.
What does it say?
1965?
What does it say?
I'm not reading it right now. U.S. postal regulation states that there must be at least 30 feet clearance approach distance.
That's state
to the safety
highways.
of the
That's state
mail
highways.
carrier
Rural highways.
delivered on an
Yeah.
authorized route.
That don't count.
Aren't rural highways defined as areas that have single mailboxes?
Rural.
How does the rule define that?
It doesn't say anything about rural, it just says,
No, just that state highways.
no, it doesn't say
State
anything about
highways.
highways, it just says, the United States Postal Service regulation states that there must be at least 30 feet clearance approach distance of the safety of the mail carrier to deliver.
What section are you referring to?
Florida statute, just looking it up.
What's the statute number? So I've got all the parking statutes here,
Florida statute 316, section 1965.
1965, okay?
3.1.4.
Or 45.
He said 1965.
I know, that's 45, I got 45. And I believe this is the state statute would not affect if it's a state highway, and I think that was one of the situations that come up, was that there was no
Do you see anything about time?
state highway.
I know I have seen it.
Find it right here, I know. Because, the US Post Office has no restrictions on parking in front of the mailbox. It's just that if you park in front of it, you're not gonna get your mail. That's their only rule. You know, I read that somewhere also, but it was part of the state law, and it said that on a state highway, and the state highway would not be affecting us.
So are you saying that you believe there's no setback from a mailbox required?
Right. Right, not in Stoneybrook, not in the county, in residential areas, there's no setback. There's no law, there's
No
no, except on state highways,
Read that.
on State Route 82.
So no
Think
setback
about it more.
to deliver mail or no setback for
That
towing
one right there.
car?
No,
That's car.
no setback.
Next one would be for
mailbox.
fire hydrants.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the stack.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Warren. If they are official USPS roadside drop-off mail from your card type boxes, yes, it's illegal, and you can get a ticket. As far as US postal regulations are concerned, they are not required to deliver mail to an obstructed mailbox. Customers must keep the approach to their mailboxes clear of obstructions to allow safe access for delivery. If USPS employees are impeded in reaching a mail receptacle, the postmaster may withdraw delivery service. Fire hydrant's 15 feet, but UPS regulations state there must be at least 30 feet of approach distance from the safety of the mail carrier to deliver on a mounted route. Doesn't say anything about rural or highway. Parking near mailbox, Florida statute 316, section 1965. And it's for the safety of the mail carrier in this case.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it.
That was posted on our page today, someone was blocking, a mailbox.
Yeah. Someone who didn't care about parking.
You couldn't go out and tell them to pull in the driveway.
Yeah. I don't see anything about the 6, but I know I've seen it. And I don't know how and when it applies, but I think something like that does exist there. In any case, oh, there was one thing, having to do with Mrs. Sullivan's list. Mrs. Sullivan noted that some streets have 2 speed limits on the same street. I don't think you meant 2 speed limits, you meant 2 speed limit signs.
Yes.
Okay, so that was changed, because, in fact, yeah,
It
2
was all
speed.
about signs.
Yeah, but it sounded like there were more than 1 speed limit on the street, if you know what I mean. They sped it up by your house, the ones they're driving by. And what else? Let's see, 5.
So that was.
And there were
correct.
other questions here in the minutes which have been answered. So those are done deals, and it had to do with the, just for your information, the Anchor Tree Services. It was an annual service that we pay for, that they come out, there was a contract. I didn't even realize it personally, I don't know if anybody else remembers that. But what they did was, they charged us, rather than each time they come out, which is I think 2 or 3 times, a fee per month. And that's what that $691 was about, if you recall that we questioned.
Did we ever
Last month.
approve that though?
I think we approved them coming out, but I can't say that I ever saw the contract.
I don't think we ever did.
Now, I know we didn't sign it, but someone did.
I don't think that was it. We ever talked about them coming out monthly.
No, they don't come out monthly.
We're getting
We,
billed
But
we
we
get
gotta
billed every month.
Charge monthly maintenance.
What they did was, they broke it up into 12 payments. It's like having 1 big service or 2 big services and paying it out over a 12 months period.
So what
That's
benefit
where
do
you
we
go.
get from this, for that?
I don't
And
know.
we can't actually approve an amount if they're gonna spread it out like that, because we only approve the amounts that were on the bill for the jobs that were
Like, what are we
done.
getting for
Like-
$619?
We never approved the
$691.
extra
$91.
amounts.
They come out twice a year, I believe, at least twice. One time they do certain types of trees up to a certain height, and another time they do other types of trees. It might be palm trees this time around, or maybe they do them all twice a year. I don't have the contract to read it and tell you, but the fact
And this
is,
for like trimming the sable
Trimming,
palms,
yeah.
all that stuff?
yeah, the trees along Pebblebrook,
Oh, yeah, Pebblebrook.
Pebblebrook, and possibly a couple other common areas down by the clubhouse and whatnot. Now, understand that tree trimming by Mainscape only goes up to 14 feet. Anything above 14 feet, you need to bring somebody like an anchor tree in, and that's why they're doing it.
Well, they don't have to leave the ground, they can cut it down.
So what they do is, they're doing it all, rather than splitting some of it up with them and whatnot, going back and forth. So they'll do the trimming that we need. Now, as far as the trimming, 1 or 2 other bills that were there, we did approve the one in the common area behind the homes. But I don't remember the one for $150, but for $150, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time digging around for that.
Just as a point, not to kill a dead horse,
Yeah,
3/16/1965, parking near rural mailboxes during certain hours. Whoever parks any vehicle within 30 feet of any rural mailbox upon any state highway in this state between 8 AM and 6 PM shall be cited for non-moving violation.
so you're saying that it doesn't apply in this case because we're not.
Does that apply in there? It only applies on state highways, State Route 82, and it has a state highway, or probably federal highway also, but state highway.
Well, I can't
And
imagine
that's,
a federal highway having a mailbox on it, but.
yeah, be rare, but again, 82 don't hardly have anything, but there are state highways that do have mailboxes out there, so. I know I read it somewhere.
What about county routes and
Huh?
county and such roads? What about?
No, unless it's in the county, it's not in the county reg.
So what the heck did I read then?
Huh?
What did I read?
Well, you read the state law, 3/16/1965.
I'm gonna tell you, it reads different than what you just said.
Yeah, this is the 2019, no, this is 2019 version
Yeah.
of Florida statutes. And that's where I read it, say, because we had talked about that one time before, and everybody said, what do you mean you can't do blah, blah, blah? You know, well, yeah, it was raised in, I think, in a.
I think you're the one that brought it up.
No, I didn't, because I wasn't sure. Because there are restrictions in most states on state highways and stuff, on some of that stuff because of the speed, et cetera. So, the state wrote that for the state, but if you go back and look at the laws, the county, the state, the city, even Ohio State, I've even looked at those, and there's nothing in there on mailboxes.
Okay, well,
And that's generally, and again, it all comes from, uniform traffic tickets that are national. You go any state and all these rules we have here are the same. Been there, done that a few times.
okay.
But, and that's why
So
I
your
went in,
conclusion of the significance of that is,
well, for us, it comes down to, you can park in front of the mailbox on Stone Valley Loop. But when a mail person comes around,
He's not gonna get
she's
the
not
mail.
gonna get out of the vehicle, and that's I got copies of the requirements somewhere in this stuff here, I got copies, cause I.
and you're telling me that you have no recourse when a person parks in front of your
No,
mailbox?
no.
Other than flattening their tires.
Yeah, well, they'll never get their mail. Now, you know, we're fortunate that I think, you know, our gal does that once in a while, will jump out and do that. And they're getting out more now because they have a lot of Amazon stuff they're delivering, so they're getting in and out. But again, they don't have to. And you get on a Friday afternoon, like when our gal's is off, we get some people coming around, if there's someone parked there, they're just going on by.
Jean's been in our neighborhood since the beginning, so she takes care of us.
Oh, she does, she really
Yeah,
does.
she's good, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What about setbacks from corners and
Oh, yeah,
driveways?
yeah,
and-
see, we get into that, talk about that, I got all that stuff right here.
Well, I don't know how much you wanna get into it, but just a
Well, I
a
think-
quick synopsis of what you think.
Quick synopsis is, the rules, the parking rules were established by the National Committee on Uniform Traffic Laws and Ordinances in 2000. And I've got copies from the city, the county, copies of what they actually posted. I even went back to Ohio and pulled out, chapter 451168, which I use many times. And all says the same thing,
Which is,
you can't park at all these different places. And I was gonna read some of the places, where's my notes? Well, some of the things they can't,
to quickly just say what the setbacks are, how many
yeah,
feet.
yeah, it says, you know, within 5 feet at the end of a driveway, within, you can't park on a curb, you can't park on a sidewalk, you can't park within an intersection, on a crosswalk, along street extensions, and this is where Tetra Tech also addressed this fact on that. Any place where official signs prohibited stopping is one, and then it goes down another section of where signs are posted.
Well, let's say, from a stop sign, how many feet back from a stop sign?
I think it's 30 feet. Yeah, it says, within 20 feet of a crosswalk, within 30 feet of approach of a flashing signal, stop sign, traffic control, etc. Within 20 feet of the entrance to any fire station, any place where official signs prohibit standing, or parking. You know, so all that is addressed.
So 20 feet from a crosswalk implies that they're worried about visibility of people walking and crossing the street.
Right.
both ways, for the driver to see the pedestrian and vice versa to see
That's
the
why the
car.
stop sign should be before you get to the crosswalk.
But then there's 30 feet from the stop sign.
No, 20.
20.
Or 20 feet.
Yeah.
I thought it was 20 feet from the crosswalk, 30 feet from the stop sign.
I'll back through that, no. Yeah, you still have, the key thing is there, you have to stop at the stop sign. That's where the stop bar is. And then there's the
Then
crosswalk.
we need to stop again when by the time we get to the.
And then you have to coast out, and see, that's what scares me on Pebble Brook, and it just,
Drive you
I
crazy.
never ride a bike on our path, because you would have to stop at every intersection. Because I've seen kids go flying down
Right
those
through.
sidewalks, they just fly across the road, and these people, they don't stop at the stop sign,
No, they
they
stop
stop
at
before
the-
the
They
intersection.
roll right through it.
Yeah.
If they
And to
stop
go
at
back
all.
to your driver education stuff, they tell you, you stop at the stop sign, then you move forward until you can visibly see the step.
Right. I agree with that.
All this stuff, some of the stuff's even on driver's test, even back when I took it.
So the gist of it is that there are significant restrictions on parking on these streets,
Right.
regardless.
Yeah, no matter what, yes. And we'll talk about it later, but I've got some opinions on that.
Alright, so, as far as I'm concerned, I think we've gone over the minutes. We have the minutes in front of you as amended.
Can I ask you a question? You
Sure.
did bring up the signs on page 4, and it's not on the corrected copy versus the old copy, so I just wanted to, I added it in. You
Hang on a
mentioned-
second, you got it reversed then. Because this, which signs you talking about
See the
specifically?
old one, and here's the new
Which signs
one.
are you specifically talking about?
4, Ms. Sullivan noted some streets have 2 speed
Speed limits.
limits. It's supposed to say limits signs.
2 speed limit signs.
You had just corrected that, but it's not corrected in the minutes, so. Just thought I'd throw it back out there.
I think that she may have, be careful that the pages may have.
No, it's on there. It says Ms. Sullivan noted some street
Last
signs
line.
have 2 speed limits on the same street.
Yeah, it's not speed limits, it's speed limit
Two
signs.
speed
Right, no,
limit
but it is there.
Just add the word signs.
It needs to add the word signs, like Joe said, it's just, he said he added it, but it's not in the minutes.
Oh, okay.
That we're going to approve the minutes, and it needs to be written in by hand, I guess.
So number 8 on the updated minutes,
Third
bullet
one down.
point number 3,
Yep,
need to have signs after limits.
correct,
Cross the S off the limit and put signs.
yeah, he said it verbally, it's just not on. the-
Yeah, I gotta tell you something, I put it in, I'm not sure what happened here. Cause I have a
That's
copy
what I
that
thought you
has
said,
it,
I'm like,
I
no,
have
it's
a copy
not.
that has it.
Okay, well,
Cause the
that's-
old does not have signs.
And neither did the new one, just
I
wanted you
know,
to know.
but, okay.
It's fixed. Okay.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the minutes
As amended,
as amended.
on second,
Second.
okay. We've got Janice Lancaster making a motion to accept the minutes from September 11th and a second by Warren Davies. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Always abstain because I was
I know,
here.
that's fine. That's fine. Too much paper. I do have a question on the minutes, real quick, from Warren. You made a statement here, Mr. Davies wants to see the HOA take a positive approach. I was curious specifically, what would you like to say?
Oh, positive approach on the trapping aspect with the pigs and stuff.
Okay,
That's what we were
yeah,
talking about.
I'm going back, right, it
Yeah,
wasn't.
Yeah,
Um,
it wasn't just a positive action for anybody. it was
No,
a
no, I
positive
knew
action
you,
on-
I'm sorry, I kinda took that one statement.
And I did not count JT going out there and putting traps and shooting them as the HOA doing it.
That was a positive.
That was the,
approach to me.
that was the trapper that did that, I thought.
Yeah, the track, yeah, the track, and I can't think, I don't. I
Well, there's
can't
no,
remember.
under Florida law, there's no license for
Yeah.
trapping,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
especially for hogs. So you just can't transport them.
Alright, so now that we're done with the minutes, I would like to have a motion to approve formally approve what we already had okay to do, because I told them to do it. The $2,500 contract to do the
Sidewalks.
pressure washing, sidewalks, stripping, whatever.
Are we down there yet?
No,
Why are
Wait till we
I
get
just
down.
don't wanna forget it.
Oh,
We won't- I got it written
It's on
down,
the
Joe.
agenda.
Alright,
We're good.
Okay,
okay,
written down, Joe.
Number 5.
no problem, alright, good enough. Approve the minutes, we've done it. Landscaping, I'm not sure.
Landscaping, I think we need to make, have a discussion or make a decision on what we're gonna do landscaping, since the board has put out the RFP to do the, landscaping, redo the contract. They have a walkthrough 14th, I think, of this month. They sent it out to at least a half a dozen different people, and that takes care of what the HOA pays for.
Right.
The question comes, are we going to continue to have Mainscapes do the rest of it? Or are we going to have Mainscapes do the same thing and redo the contract, to see if we have the same contractor for the whole area?
Well, I will say this, we have the existing contract through Gateway. I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and review it. I do not believe that the two contracts are in alignment on dates.
I think, but I do
I don't
think
think it
they're
has to
both
be.
month to month right now.
Yeah. I don't think I think there's a 30-day clause in it.
There probably is without clause. I agree that we tend to put those in our
Yeah.
contracts now. But the fact is, though, that we don't know yet what the HOA is going to come up with.
Yeah.
And I think, if it behooves us to do it, I don't have a problem, but understand this, right now, we use, Gateway as a vehicle to get the contract because there are savings for sales
Oh,
tax.
and we would still use Gateway as the vehicle.
If they, we can't guarantee
The
they will go
contract is
along
gonna be
with
with
that.
Gateway. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that.
That would be
one thing
something
have to
that
do.
we
We
would
would
wanna.
I don't-
we can make a recommendation.
Yes.
We can make a
Right.
recommendation, which is how we work, that this is what we would like to do to the Board of Supervisors, which would require them to sit down and
Put out
talk.
RFP, make a
another
decision.
RFP for that.
Right.
And I will tell you this, I don't know if that has impact on their major contract with the rest of Gateway.
I think it's separate.
Okay,
It is separate.
well,
I've got a
I'm
copy of
thinking
it
in terms
the
of
RFP.
pricing and everything else, I know they're separate contracts,
Yeah.
but I just wanna make sure that
The
they
RFP
aren't somehow linked at the
Yeah.
hip.
The RFP put out by the master was weak at best. I think I was trying to convince them to use the RFP put out by Gateway, because theirs was more
Detailed.
detailed and. they
Which
put that as-
RFP was weak?
You said it's the HOA, I have
HOA.
The HOA ones?
Yeah, yeah. And
I
that's
wasn't-
where
I
they
wasn't
ran
part
into
of
the
that.
problem last time, because some of the stuff, and they also didn't let Mainscapes type up the contract. I think they may have.
left
forgotten
a
some
couple
stuff.
details off the
Yeah.
contract that should
So,
have
and
been.
I think that's what upset some of the people on the landscaping committee, and why they wanted to review the contract before it was finally approved by the board. And I gave them a copy, because I got a copy of it from here, and, so Shannon has a copy of it there, and I said, I think she feels the same way, it was kind of a weak thing, but that's what they wanted to do, instead of, and that's fine, they'll make it work.
Sometimes it depends who makes up the committee and how
Yeah,
that goes.
yeah, yeah.
But I will say this, that, I'm not sure who else wants to review it. You vote for a board to
Yeah.
negotiate these things and sign these
Well,
contracts.
the way the meeting I attend, I went to one meeting just to see what they were doing and et cetera. And I think some of the people on the last committee, and they were concerned because the contract was signed, there was things missing out of it, and they felt they should have had an opportunity to review it and before it went to the board. And I don't have a big problem
You're
with
saying that the committee
The
should have
committee,
been.
yeah.
Okay,
I don't
not
have a-
just the
I don't
general
have a problem,
population.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but, and because again, it adds to.
Why would, I guess I'm a little unclear, why would the contract be any different between what the committee recommended to the board and what the board approved? What would
Well, the big
change?
deal was the white baseball field. That was the big deal, because Mainscapes eliminated
There was
doing
another thing
anything
that
with baseball.
I
It was
signed,
that
I
cutting
signed the
grass.
contract and there was a change in there that I was not aware of either.
That Mainscape had made.
Yeah, they put it in the RFP that they'd have to do a separate thing for the baseball field, but then when the contract was typed up, only thing it had for the baseball field was cutting the grass.
So who typed the contract? Mainscape?
Mainscapes, yeah, it's not Mainscapes letterhead. It should have been,
So when I get the contract and I'm reviewing it, looking at it, I didn't go back. and
well,
forth
yeah,
with
you don't know what the
it.
RFP is.
In that case, I agree, although this is not our venue
Right.
here.
No, But we need to be careful when we do it.
Yeah.
And the one that, as I say, the one Gateway put out, I mean, it was really detailed, and what they did was when they awarded it to Mainscapes, they got like a 4 or 5 page cover thing there with the costs and some other stuff, but they took the RFP and made that part of the contract. So they had all that documented, what they said they were gonna do and how they were gonna do it,
I like
and that's
that.
all part of the contract, and that is a good way to do it.
I agree. I agree, but once again, we have in the past depended upon, recent past anyway, we've depended upon because of our use of Mainscape to sort of link.
Yeah.
I will say this, it behooves us, in all probability, to try to keep the same company for both the Gateway assets as well as the
Yeah,
HOA
I
assets.
agree, that's,
And,
there just too many fingers could get pointed at who did what to do.
yeah,
you
that's
know.
the old,
Yeah.
it was the other guy that did that,
Yeah.
or should have done that.
Especially when you're down irrigation, I think irrigation would be the,
And I'm gonna tell you right now, in fact, that's a good point, we need to get, that, this really is our irrigation through the office. That would be your department, probably as vice president. You are vice president, yeah, and, I've lost track of the board a little bit in that respect, but the fact of the matter is that, that berm behind us, I haven't seen the water on that in a long time.
no, I have not, no. They're back there trimming it,
And 3 weeks of no rain,
And it's browning up.
well, they're out there trimming it now, I don't know
Well,
who.
trimming the hedgerow, yeah,
Yeah.
and then now we especially need water after they
Yeah.
trimmed it, but the grass is browning up. So we
Yeah,
need to
well.
get that irrigation done. You know, I can call, but I'm just another resident, you know, when I call now, so, you know, you might.
Best way to check what they're doing is just go down to the, your irrigation control box and see
Control
what's going, see what's
Yeah,
going
you
on.
can, you know, I hate to, as
rest
a
of their stuff.
resident, just a resident, to go down there and touch that, and, cause now you give them an out, oh, so someone must have played with it or something, you know, 'cause right now it's not a.
We would, I've been down there a few times when we first got going.
I know,
years
I know,
ago.
we had issues, we were looking
Yeah.
for it, yeah.
Yeah, the one landscaper we had didn't even know where it was, and then one,
So who's your contact here, Al or who, for irrigation?
No, this particular
Would be Glenn.
irrigation issue would be through the office,
Oh,
because that is not, that is our problem.
yeah, that there, yeah, is.
Yeah.
but
I
the
just
other-
wanted to bring it up while I
Yeah.
So
thought
does
about
it
it.
need to be put on the agenda for the upcoming HOA meeting?
No, this is something, this is to reprogram and get the damn thing back on.
Okay.
And, that would be something that any
Yeah.
board member could go down there and make them aware of, because honestly, I don't know how much Shannon really travels around to our community and sees what's going on, so,
She travels around the streets, but I don't think she travels the back end.
probably not,
Yeah.
So you just,
yeah. So let her know, we
You
gotta
know where
get
the
that
control box
irrigation.
is, JT?
No.
Yeah, it's over by, the
Irish Stone,
Irish Stone. We're Irish Stone at
right
the,
by the lake.
Oh, it's right next to Pebblebrook.
No, you gotta go all the way to the back, by the lake.
all the way back in the corner.
Where the gate is.
Where Irish Stone comes up against the lake that we use as a,
Yeah.
moat,
Right, yeah.
you know, and it's at the eastern end of it.
Yeah,
You'll see it, close to, it's close to His Street.
Okay.
well, it kinda backs up there, but to get,
But it
you
is
just have to
off
walk
Irish
between
Stone.
some houses and you can see it back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's
So,
gotta
Just
be
take your key, open
programmed.
up the box.
The master key.
They're all the same.
My pick gun.
They're all the same.
In any case, that's gotta get done. All right, so the sealant contract is a done deal. We're done with that. Power washing contract, we have now formally approved it.
Yes.
Gotta get that done. I had suggested to get it done probably around the end of October, which I think is a good time, because
It will be.
although it's been dry, usually
If
it's,
we can get on it, we're having the Stoneybrook or the villas is having their driveways and sidewalks and stuff done the October 21st,
Yeah.
October 21st.
well, you don't have sidewalks to do over there.
Well, we have,
Driveways.
Yeah,
We have
driveways
the
and
sidewalks.
I don't know how significant that is trying to tie that in, but it'd
Well-
be nice to have everything look good at one time.
yeah, if he has the stuff there, it'd be nice.
All I know is he's booked out until November 10th.
Oh, yeah, well, we booked it, yeah.
Well, I told them before I went away, I wanted to get it done around the end of October. Hopefully somebody did
Yeah.
something. So,
Yeah, we
if, Chris can get the word, or whoever, who is it? What's the other fellow, new fellow's name? Is it
Glenn.
Glenn. Glenn,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
hear
I'm not
this,
sure all his
we'd
responsibilities
like to
are.
get that done around the end of October, hopefully. Early November at the latest, so we can catch the dry season and have the dry season, have everything cleaned up. And what happens next spring, I think we have to revisit it, probably, late winter. Because I really was disappointed that giving him 2 shots at it for the year, we got no discount whatsoever, and I was disappointed with the price.
But we're still
And-
paying less than what we did before?
No.
The same amount?
No, more, they're getting more done though. But I will say this, he probably did that strip of bluestone, and it hadn't been done in I don't know how many years, because I will say, we used to forget that every year.
Yeah.
And as a result, it probably was hard to do. But if he's doing it on a regular basis, it shouldn't be that hard this time around, it should be better, and subsequently, when you're doing the cleaning twice a year, I gotta believe it's less work. That's why I was hoping for a little bit of a break on
The
that.
stains aren't as bad.
Yeah, exactly, or
Yeah.
thick and heavy, but whatever. All right, SBAC recommendation on parking
Hold
for
on, did
board
You
of
said, don't
supervisors.
forget, on the pressure washing,
He
we
already
were
said-
Yes.
supposed to approve the twice a year. Did we just take a vote to approve that?
No, we took a vote,
No, that costs
we took a
much
vote
money.
to approve, not twice a year, just to do the one for $2,500.
One.
We don't have a contract for twice a year as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
We rejected the $5,000,
got it.
okay?